morning, Lake Havasu City. This is Mayor Cal Sheehy, and welcome to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager on Friday, July 31st. Thank you for being with us. We have a special guest that's going to be joining us today. We have Vice Mayor David Lane. Welcome, Vice Mayor. And good morning, Jess. How are you doing?
Good morning, Cal. It's good to be here on a Friday morning.
Excellent. So today we're going to go through, this is actually, believe it or not, the fifth Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager that we've done via Zoom or electronic means on Facebook Live since the pandemic began in March. So we do miss the days that we can be together in the same room. But generally what we do is we take the coffee on the road and we visit different areas of interest around our community. Generally buildings that are owned by the taxpayers, so government-funded buildings or entities, or other places of interest. And we had a great lineup scheduled for this year, but the pandemic had other plans. So I'm glad we can at least connect via this means at this time. So what we'll do to get started as our format is we go over areas of interest of the city, and then we'll answer questions at the end. So we do have some folks monitoring the questions, so feel free to put the questions on the live stream. And at the end of our remarks on the different hot topics around the community, we'll answer those questions and get to as many of them as we can. So we'll start first with the COVID-19 update. It seems it's all that's on everyone's mind, rightfully so. It has changed the world around us and really has put a new focus on public health and what that means for our community. What we've been focusing on at the city for the last several weeks is testing and testing capacity. We understand that is one of the areas that is going to help get us out of this pandemic, is we understand who has a confirmed case or who's positive and be able to get those people removed from the general population in a quarantine situation so we can slow the spread of this virus. And testing has been limited, and also the return or the length of time it takes to return a test just takes way too long. So we've been working with our partners at the Mojave County Department of Public Health. They've been the lead agency on this pandemic going forward. And they've been very helpful in creating resources and relationships and connections so that we can have rapid and available testing for all citizens in our community. You can go to our website at any time at lhcaz.gov/COVID-19, or just go to lhcaz.gov and click on the COVID button at the top. It'll take you to all of the actions that the city has taken in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. But notably at the top is now a list of availability of where testing options are in our region and different providers that are providing those things. So Jess, I know you've been with me in many of these conversations. Do you have any other thoughts on some of the testing options?
No, I think that we've talked about, I think at the last coffee, and we continue to have conversations with everybody that we can in the region, finding ways for the city to support. We, as a city, we don't do the testing, and we don't have a public health department, but that doesn't stop us from trying to engage folks and try to bridge some gaps. And if funding is needed, then the city would look at that very, very closely. And one of the things that we're trying to advocate for is, as best we can, is for cheap, available testing that provides quick, rapid results. So I think the more information that we have in the hands of those that think they may or may not have the virus is a good thing. So then at that point, people can make personal decisions that affect those that surround them and those that they may work with or others in the community. So I think that's vitally important. Again, we can't provide testing, but we can do our best to engage those to try to make that happen as best we can.
Yeah, one of the challenges that we're having is that folks have symptoms. They go and get a test, and their symptoms subside before they even get the results of the test. And so it's really difficult for people to stay home when they start feeling better and they have to get to work, or they have to continue on with life's chores that are in front of us. So if we can cut that time down, it would be very beneficial to certainly our citizens, but also citizens across the state of Arizona. Governor Ducey held a press conference yesterday, and he had talked about some of that testing and what they're doing with some of the state labs and the laboratories across the state. And we look forward to the days that those test results can get turned around within 3 to 5 days, which seems that by mid-August. based on some of the comments yesterday, we should be able to see that as a state, which will be beneficial for what we need as far as testing comes available. So again, go to the website at lhcaz.gov. You can check all of the testing sites that are available. If you're a provider and you are providing testing and want to be on that list, just reach out to us and we'll add you to the list. Obviously, as with anything in this pandemic, it's ever changing. And many of you have heard me say this before, but one day in this pandemic is almost a week's worth of normal time as far as the information and the changes and what's coming our way. So if you are a provider or you know of other testing opportunities, feel free to reach out to us. We'll vet some of those with public health and get those listed for our citizens to be able to have access to that information in an easy format. Another part of the testing that is coming out, and you might have heard a lot about, is the antibody testing. So the University of Arizona has been analyzing blood samples of hundreds of thousands of Arizonans statewide to determine who has developed the antibodies against the virus that causes COVID-19. So the state of Arizona provided about $3.5 million for that testing, which is available at more than 24 locations across the state. It's available here at North Country Healthcare here in Lake Havasu City. And they've just expanded the antibody testing and who should be able to get that. Prior to this week's announcement, it was primarily just first responders, frontline medical workers, and the like. But now they've expanded that list to include, all of public safety, include food service workers such as the grocery store workers, food preparation, hospitality, restaurant folks, warehouse folks, childcare workers. So there's a whole list of folks that are now able to take advantage of that antibody testing. And if you have any interest in doing that, again, you can go to the North Country Healthcare to be able to do that. You can learn more about it by visiting a website, and it is COVID-19 antibody testing.arizona.edu. So again, it's COVID-19 antibody testing.arizona.edu. And again, that's the antibody testing that the University of Arizona is doing to analyze those blood samples of Arizona. And so if you're interested in that, again, North Country Healthcare here locally, or COVID-19 antibody testing.arizona.edu. So we'll continue to stay focused on testing and testing availability. But as Jess mentioned, our end goal is to have community availability of a widespread nature of rapid response testing so that folks can get a test and get results very, very quickly and be able to make the proper decisions for them and their family based on those results. So we'll continue working in those efforts. To touch up a little bit more about the governor's press conference yesterday afternoon, he did mention what Arizonans are doing is working and to continue doing what we're doing. So there wasn't any real new announcements about some of the business closures that are closed under his executive order, including bars, fitness centers, gyms, water parks, and the like. But continue to do that and more to follow were his words. And so next week will be the first 2-week mark that he'll identify any changes to any of those policies based on that executive order that he'll review it every 2 weeks. So just continue what we're doing. So stay home when you're not feeling well, physically distance at all times, wash your hands regularly, wear a face covering or a mask when in indoor public place, and we'll be able to continue to see the numbers go down. Speaking on numbers and those types of things, the data, again, we're just a partner in this pandemic, but the lead agency is the Mojave County Department of Public Health and the Arizona Department of Health Services. So COVID-19 is a reportable diagnosis. So if somebody does have COVID-19 confirmed case, the healthcare provider or lab notifies the local health department, which in our case is Mojave County Department of Public Health. And all of that data is stored there and then in aggregate sent over to the Arizona Department of Health Services. The data is available to everybody at the same time at 9 a.m. each day. You can go to either the Mojave County Department of Public Health website, and you'll see their data hub, which is they've done a fantastic job with that data. But you can get updates regularly, again, at 9 a.m. each day. Or you can go to the Arizona Department of Health Services website look at their data and you can see trends across the entire state, and it's broken down by county. So you can take a look at specifically Mojave County or other areas in the state to see how maybe our neighboring counties are doing, or some of the large population centers of our state are doing. So that data is available for all citizens. Please go to it at your leisure, and it's updated daily at 9 o'clock in the morning. Both of those sites provide really great resources on data. Jess, I don't know if you have any thoughts on data or the reporting.
I guess so. Maybe to step back, you talked about the governor's press conference, and I think it's just an important reminder to those that are watching and those that are out there about the authority that different entities here that have in the state on our residents here in Lake Havasu City and our businesses here in Lake Havasu City. So with regards to the closure, like you indicated, with bars with the Series 6 and 7 liquor license and water parks and other restrictions that are placed upon in response to slowing this response to COVID-19. Those are all decisions that are made statewide by the governor's office. So it's important for us to kind of understand what that means, and we follow guidance that comes in from the governor's office. A lot of times that we're here as a city, and we have to respond and try to do the best we can to take the directives from the governor's office and do the best we can to take his directive, but to do it in a way that makes sense for Lake Havasu City. And then also in terms of like schools and school districts, things like that, those are directives that are coming from the governor's office. So the governor has said that August 17th is the first day that schools can come back. But obviously we've seen in the past when dates are set that is it can be a moving target. He's also indicated that the local school districts across Arizona will make a determination on the day-to-day practices and procedures that would be needed in order to open schools again too. So, again, just wanted to make sure that we understand these things. We communicate the best we can so that the public knows what's happening. But these are directives that are in large part coming from the governor of Arizona.
Yeah, thank you. And a good point, Jess, about the schools and school districts. Sometimes we're so close to it that we forget what different political organizations are. But the school district is its own political subdivision with its own elected board. So there's a school board that you all elect, and they'll be making the decisions under the guidelines from the Arizona Department of Education and the governor's guidance. And we'll support their actions and stand ready to assist the school district and school board in any way that they ask. But that is under their purview. And again, we stand ready to assist them should they need any help in that area. One area that when it comes to COVID and what he's doing or not doing is always comes to visitors. And so we always like to address this, and we've addressed it multiple times over the last 5 months. On what is happening. And so first, I just want to let you know that, Lake Havasu City is a great place to live, work, and play. Many of us moved here after visiting here several times or for many years in a row, and we're able to finally choose Lake Havasu City to be our home. So that's a great thing about it. But when it comes to visitors, we have stopped all marketing. So we stopped all marketing, several months ago, as far as trying to entice visitors to come to the area. We've also, during the stay home orders, we had asked visitors to, please stay home while the health and safety of our citizens is at risk, and figure out how we can manage to ensure that the health and safety of our citizens is protected. With the ever-growing demand of folks coming here. So again, we're not advertising, we're not marketing Lake Havasu City. Those are not things that are on our agenda. Our partners at Go Lake Havasu have also ceased all of those operations and continue to support the public health effort as we try to get through this. But many times people say, just put road closures at the end of Lake Havasu City on the north and south end of town, and we'll just be able to live in our own bubble and not have an issue here. We're not able to do that. I know it sounds very simple, but State Highway 95 is a state highway. Mayors don't have the ability to manage borders. The lake, as you've heard me say many times before, is a federal waterway. We don't have the ability to close that. We own and control one launch ramp, Site 6. It does not have a duty station, so there's not really a good way to close it or to manage those crowds. And you may recall during the stay home orders in April, late March, April, into the first week of May, we had some areas closed. We had the channel was closed to mooring all the way through Memorial Day. Body Beach was closed, not related to COVID, but related to a fire that occurred in that area in April. And while it was closed for a couple of weeks while the embers were finishing and the cleanup occurred, it drove crowds to other areas of the lake. And so we have the space, so we are managing what we have versus trying to crowd everybody into a smaller space where folks cannot physically distance. I know I know many folks say, just have everybody stay home, and it's not allowed. It's not as easy as it is to say those words to make that happen. So we just ask everyone to be respectful, understand that this is home to 55,000 people live here. So we ask our visitors to be respectful, be responsible, and then for all of us combined, our citizens, our residents, and also our visitors, that let's meet each other where we're at and do the right things, be responsible, make good choices, and together we will all make it through this. So just, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I know we hear about it a lot, so I just didn't not want to address it in this forum this morning, just so that people know we understand.
Yeah, no, I think they're all really good points. I think there's not much more to add in terms of what's occurring there, but it's just important to understand the different aspects of what's out there. So we each have our role, and we need to trust the experts and rely on those that have the best information.
And then finally, before we turn it over to Vice Mayor Lane, who's going to talk about the great work he's done on the Havasu Resource Alliance on behalf of Lake Havasu City, I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the transmission of the virus. At this point, most of the focus is on indoor transmission of the virus. So, outdoor transmission it occurs, certainly, and that's why public health experts have asked us all to physically distance. But really, the concern is on the indoor transmission of it. So when it comes to people that are out enjoying the outdoors, either through water recreation or in the parks or those types of areas, that's not really an area of transmission concern, as long as people follow the guidelines as far as washing your hands, staying home if you're not feeling well, and taking care of those types of things. But one area is group gatherings. That seems to be the largest area of transmission that we're experiencing, both indoors and outdoors. So this is where group gatherings of multiple people from multiple different families or multiple different households get together and congregate for some reason. And so those things are workable under certain circumstances, such as having folks that aren't feeling well to stay home, wearing a face covering or a mask if you're in those areas where you can't be physically distanced, if you're from different households or different families or different germ pools, I guess we could call it. So that's kind of what we're asking folks to do. Watch yourself on group gatherings. You've heard the governor say it multiple times that Arizonans are safer at home. But if you do need to go out and you feel that that's what's best for you and your family, just make sure that you're making good choices, and just know that group gatherings are an area for concern when it comes to the transmission of this virus.
And Cal, if I can, we asked those questions with the experts and the health professionals that are out there, including Director Burley at Mojave County. Where is this transmission coming from? What is spreading the most? And the response every single time that we bring that up and ask those questions is group gatherings. It's the backyard barbecues. It's the private events hosted in indoor facilities, those types of things where it just takes one person to show up, and before you know it, that's spreading throughout that group. So be careful out there in terms of some of these the gatherings and with family and friends. It's so hard to say that, but that's where we're being told is the greatest amount of transmission that's taking place is in those types of areas. So just be careful, do the right thing, and we can get through this.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. All right, Vice Mayor Lane, we're going to turn it over to you. And again, thank you for your leadership on the Havasu Resource Alliance and all the work you're doing to help support our citizens, our business community, and the health of our citizens. So if you want to give an update about the great work you and your team is doing over at the Alliance, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. It's good see you, so to speak, since we can't see you, but you can see us. For those of you that may not be aware of the Lhc Resource Alliance, I'm going to take just a couple minutes and explain what it is. So when the COVID pandemic first hit, we were getting all kinds of phone calls, all of us on the council and the mayor and the city manager. And we were also monitoring numerous social media posts about people wanting to help each other and people wanting to know where to go to get help. So Mayor Sheehy and I spoke about the situation, and he asked me to spearhead a program so that people would have a trusted and reliable source to go to get help and also to provide some assistance. So we reached out to Linda Seaver at the Havasu Community Health Foundation, Lisa Kruger at the Lake Havasu Area Chamber of Commerce, Debbie Pennington at the River Cities United Way, and Christina Hook with the Better Business Bureaus. We explained to these CEOs and directors exactly what it was we had in mind, and all four of them jumped at the chance to be able to help Lake Havasu City. So the Lhc Resource Alliance was born out of that. So what is it that we're doing? We're helping residents and businesses that have been affected by the COVID-19. And so you have to be here in Lake Havasu. We're not providing assistance to other communities, just right here in Lake Havasu. And it's those that have been adversely affected. So we're providing support. We're paying some bills such as rent and utilities, payroll. We're buying medical equipment. We're providing food and providing mental health professionals. And sometimes we're just the shoulder for people to cry on. So anything that you can think of that people need to help them get through this pandemic, we're there to do that. So a few of the numbers since we started this in March. The food bank, which is run by the Community Health Foundation, has distributed over 335,000 pounds of food. That's a 57% increase over last year during the same time period. So obviously, people are being adversely affected, not being able to get out, get food. So we're there. We're also delivering food to about 40 homes every week to homebound seniors and disabled people to ensure that they're receiving adequate and proper nutrition. The gasoline bill alone, just for the delivery of the food every week, is quite high. So the Chamber of Commerce has fielded hundreds of phone calls from business owners and residents, and they've been a strong backbone to the community, helping business owners struggling and being a valuable resource to direct business owners on how to get through this in the right direction. 9 of our local businesses have been helped by the Better Business Bureau through grants, including the Main Street Matters grant. And in fact, the Better Business Bureau was real happy to announce that starting today, you can apply for a Main Street Matters grant, even if you've already received assistance from another source. So that's another resource for our local businesses to get through this. Now, through the River Cities United Way, we have raised close to $69,000 in donations to help people to pay those bills that we were talking about. So far, we've distributed close to $49,000, helping 145 families and 30 businesses with all the resources that we have for them. Every day, we receive about 5 to 10 applications for assistance every day, and we vet those. We actually got a request from Jamaica asking if we could help him pay his electric bill in Jamaica. So obviously we didn't do that. This is for Lake Havasu City, but it was kind of interesting to see how far wide and spread that this is getting out. So it's only there to have help for the people that are affected by COVID, and they have to be a resident or business here in Lake Havasu. So numerous businesses and organizations have set up fun and food drives to help others. Currently, the Kiwanis Club of Lake Havasu is hosting a drive. Donations can be dropped off at A&B Supply on Mesquite Avenue, or the Colorado River Building Industries Association on McCulloch, or at any of the organizations that are in the Alliance. The best part about your donation, 100% of those donations go to helping others. There's absolutely zero overhead costs because each of these organizations has absorbed the cost for being part of their alliance. So there's no overhead at all. Every dollar is helping other people in Havasu. So, Mr. Mayor, I got to say how proud I am of this community. Across this country, we're seeing such a divide. But here in Lake Havasu, our residents and businesses are stepping up to help each other. The old adage, you can be part of the solution or you can be part of the problem. Well, so many people are stepping up to be part of the solution. So there's over 175 success stories coming out of the Alliance right now. And if we have time, I'd love to share a few, but I'm on your clock, Mr. Mayor, so you tell me.
Yeah, no, Mr. Vice Mayor, I appreciate, again, all the work and the leadership that you've provided on behalf of the city. And it's remarkable, nearly $70,000 that has been raised locally for our business community, our citizens, to protect the health and safety of all. It's just amazing. Again, those are not taxpayer dollars. Those are all donations that were made by members of our community. So yeah, if you want to share a couple success stories, I think that'd be fantastic to really get to the meat of what it is that the Alliance has been able to do for folks.
Absolutely. Just yesterday, I got word there was a family of 5 that's been in quarantine because they had COVID, and they weren't able to pay their bills, their utilities, and their utilities were being threatened with being closed off or turned off. And we were able to catch up on their behind payments and keep their utilities going. One of our local business people called us. They had just opened their business and they didn't know how they were going to survive. And so we were able to give them a grant and keep them going for a couple more weeks. Their business picked right up, and they were doing very well. They were able to stay open, and they did so well, in fact, that they wrote us a check for every penny that we gave them and said, here's your money back. It got me over the hump. Please use this money to help others. So we've been able to do that. One of the biggest things we've had is we had a homeless person that caught COVID. And this person was not sick enough that they needed to go to the hospital, but they did need adequate care and food and all that. Well, one of the things we've done is we've set up a location. Mr. Mayor, you asked us to see if we could do that. And we were able to come up with a location where we were just kind of on standby in case something like this happened. And the doctor of this person reached out and said, hey, do you have a place where you can put this person? They're homeless. We can't put them back out on the street. They're sick, but they can't go in the hospital. So we put them into the location that we have. And she was very, very happy. She realized that people actually cared about her and her health. And she got well. And then her caseworker actually was able to saw a help wanted sign and got her an interview. And she was able to get the job. And so now she is a tax-paying citizen of Lake Havasu City, contributing back to our community, and is no longer homeless. So yeah, great things are happening and helping people across the board. So I don't want to, there's 175 of these stories, and they'll bring tears to your eyes. And this is all about giving people a helping hand, not a handout, but a helping hand to get them back on their feet because they've been affected by this ugly pandemic.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for sharing that and being with us this morning. Mr. Vice Mayor, if you would, we'd love to have you join us through the rest of the coffee. And we have a few more topics to talk about with our citizens and residents. And then we'll go into the questions and answer section. And we'd love to have you join us.
I will be here for the duration, sir. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you again. And thank you for all the work. And, the Vice Mayor had mentioned some of the things that you don't always hear about or see that we're doing when it comes to the pandemic. We had to identify places for folks that are vulnerable or homeless. What were we going to do with them, and how are we going to ensure that there was housing capacity and food capacity, medical capacity? We've been working with local healthcare providers, hospitals, and the health department, PPE, the personal protective equipment, and then just capacities. And so those are kind of the everyday things that we're doing in regards to the pandemic that we don't really talk about too much because it's just what we have to be doing. We have to ensure that those resources are available for our citizens, regardless of whose responsibility they are. And so that's really what we've been standing up over the last 5 months. Is seems that that's what our days are consumed with, as well as doing the good work of the citizens of Lake Havasu City. So now we'll get into some of the city stuff, and then we'll answer all the questions that are coming in. And thank you for typing in your questions, and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. But we'll start with the positional analysis. You've heard us talk about this for quite some time. This is a project that we've been working on for nearly 2 years, but most specifically for the last 18 months, very specific about taking a look at our entire city and the organization and ensuring that we're paying our staff market wages. We've had some turnover issues, not unlike the private sector. and specifically in certain departments or divisions because we're not able to pay or we were not paying what a market wage was. So people might come to our agency or our organization and get training and on-the-job experience, and then go to different organizations or different agencies at higher rates of pay, leaving us basically as a training ground. Although we don't mind training people, we want to train the people to stay with us because training costs money. And so we want to wisely use our taxpayer monies, your money, in a wise way. So once we train these very talented folks, we want to ensure that they stay with us for a good period of time and provide great services to you, the citizens of Lake Havasu City. Jess and his team have been working on it. It's been a top priority of the council for, as I said, about 2 years. And I'll turn it over to Jess to do, because we're kind of at towards the finish line. I don't know if that's too aggressive to say, Jess, but if you want to give the citizens an update of where we stand and what it looks like. And
yeah, certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And you hit on it. I think it's important to make sure that everybody understands what we're trying to accomplish here in the first place, and that's to attract and retain the best and brightest employees that are served with the task of providing services to the community. So I think that's vitally important. We have it's been many years since the city has taken on an effort such as this in terms of looking at the market wages for all city employees across all different departments. I think you got to go back about 15 years to look at that. In the meantime, the city, we've looked at certain situations at certain times, but this is a comprehensive across the board approach to make sure that we're able to, again, attract and retain the best and brightest employees. We have realized some turnover, and like you indicated, Mr. Mayor, is we have employees that come in, will work 2-3 years, gain some certifications, and which is fantastic. And then we hate to see them go because they're looking for other opportunities in other communities or other agencies that are paying market wages, and so then we lose that investment, if you will. And that's that year 3 employee is so vitally important when they've now they understand their job, are able to do some things that are more innovative and so forth, have the training and certifications. Those are the ones that are part of this effort to target. So what are we doing? We've identified 10 comparable communities in Arizona that are similar to Lake Havasu City in services provided, in population, in budget size, those types of things. And we've identified these in large part as our competitors, if you will. So these we are all vying for the same pool of employees. So whether it comes to police or for fire, public works, admin, IT professionals, we have some very specific job tasks within the organization, and sometimes those are the ones that are the most difficult to attract. And our turnover, we have realized in the last couple of years, has been large part been in the police department, and it's been in our public works department. So we're doing our best to try to address those issues. So we identify those 10 comparable communities. We identify job tasks and duties for existing employees, create the job titles and descriptions. And then we compare those to our 10 comparable communities. And then we're able to identify what the market wage is for the organization. We identified that as maybe being a plan B task when COVID first struck. As you indicated, Mr. Mayor, this has been a 2-year effort, and we were ready to implement on July 1st. And then we need to be hiccups take place, and we need to make sure that we're in a position to do this fiscally responsibly and be able to do it with the right amount of resources. We've looked at it very closely, and with the direction that we've been provided, we're going to be moving forward here in the next couple of months to implement the positional analysis as far as the market wages for our employees. So it's very exciting to be on the cusp of that occurring, and be able to look at our employees in the eyes and saying that you are being paid at a market wage is the end goal at the end of the day. And again, so we can attract and retain the best and brightest employees.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. Thank you for that update for our citizens. Like I said, we've been talking about this during coffee with the mayor and city manager for almost 2 years. So good to have an update. We'll update you next time we all meet and let you know where we stand. Another component of that is you may have recalled about 2 years ago, council wages came up as something that should be reviewed. So mayor and council are paid a small stipend for what they do. And it's been since like 1993 or something since the last time that those have been adjusted. And it was determined at that time to wait until the positional analysis. So that'll be an action of the council. So that'll be a discussion point that may be coming up in the next month or two to review. But just so that we don't know what that looks like, because it'll be a conversation with the council on what direction that would go, if any direction. And it also would not go into effect for a couple of years into the next election cycle. Basically, meaning no one that's currently sitting in office would be voting themselves in a raise. So it would go in with the next mayor election a few years down the road. So that is just more of a tidbit. So when you start seeing news articles and things of kind of the background of where that came from and why that discussion even would be happening, especially during a pandemic. But it's just that it's all come together at the same time that we would address all city employees during the positional analysis to bring them up to market wage, including the positions that report directly to the city council, which include the city manager, Jess Knudson, our city attorney, and our city magistrate. So all of those conversations kind of have to happen at once, because that was what the commitment was 18 months ago of the council when we were putting the positional analysis together. So more to come on that, and those will be conversations at council meetings for further discussion, but just so you guys have a little bit of an update on what that's going to look like. Next, we've also talked several months and almost maybe even 2 years on this as well. The courthouse, there still is a need for a new courthouse, and I'll turn it over to you, Jess, to kind of just talk over what that need is and give a quick update on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have a municipal court operation here within the city, and the city is responsible for those types of situations, whether it's speeding, domestic violence, DUIs, all those things. Above that, in terms of level of criminal activity, is a responsibility of the county and then the state. But from the city's perspective, that's our responsibility, and we have a great judge in Mitch Kalali and his team do wonderful things over there. Right now, our operations from a city's courthouse perspective is we are a tenant in the county courthouse. So so there's some shared space, and that building is hosted both the county courthouse operations as well as the city courthouse operations for many years. I think I dare to throw a number out there, but I know it's been quite some time if you look at the age of that building and understand kind of how long that's been in terms of the operations for both the city and county. In that time, the county has grown. Certainly, Lake Havasu City has grown, and there are instances time and time again where we need to reserve the courtrooms for the county or for the city, and we're essentially at a certain point we've had to say that we're busting at the seams, and the current relationship, it just isn't working. County's been a fantastic partner, but it's just the amount of files, the amount of staff that's needed from the county, from the city perspective, and the need to host to utilize the courtrooms. We have a great veterans treatment program that's over there as well too, and that takes up space to do good things. So we're doing our best. In the meantime, these are directives that are coming again from the state. So we have the Superior Court has identified certain limitations on the court, so certain cases that can and can't be heard, who has to wear a mask inside the courthouse. All these directives, again, come from the state, and they come from Superior Court. So right now you're seeing a lot of cases that are being delayed, and what's going to happen here shortly is that we're going to be flooded within the municipal court when all these cases come up at once. I think we've done, the jury trials have been suspended up until I think there's one that was about to take place or took place very recently, and that was the first one since the pandemic hit. So now's the time where we're going to see a lot of more jury trials, and again, with that shared space, it's going to be difficult. So through our capital improvement plan, it's the budget process. We identify projects for over the course of 5 years, and we've identified as a city the courthouse for construction of the courthouse, and that the idea there was to construct something on the city campus. But we are looking at other options, and hopefully we can do something that's going to provide us with the ability to provide relief at the courthouse. And just one of those reminders is that sometimes you think about the courthouse and the people that we're serving over there. It's not all criminals, and it's not all people that have violated the law. And in some cases, those that just made a one-time mistake. But the court does serve those that are looking for records or orders of protection, victim services, things along those lines as well too. So just kind of important to put all that together. But yeah, Mr. Mayor, we're doing our best to research all available options and do what we can to preserve the taxpayer dollar.
Yeah, thank you. This last council meeting, we talked about, or we actually awarded a bid for our secondary well site. And obviously, water is paramount to all of us. And the good news is, like Havasu City has water resources for build out of our community. We're fortunate because of the land holdings that are around Lake Havasu City and other federal or state land holdings. We know what our population growth can be. And so early on, we've been able to secure those water resources. So we're in a good position there. But currently, we pull those water resources through the groundwater up through our rainy well. And we have been looking for additional water sites for a secondary well for many, many years. And we've made some really good progress over the last probably 5 years in moving in that direction. And Jess, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what we awarded on last Tuesday and then that need for that second water well.
Yeah, so we're taking the necessary steps. It's one of those efforts. You got to make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time and doing the proper testing and drilling. So to again to your point, right now we have the ability for a backup water supply, storage within our tanks and so forth. So it's not a reason for concern in terms of if something doesn't happen now. We're gonna run out of water in Havasu in terms of our ability to distribute the water. We have lots of water in terms of untapped resource. We just need to make sure that we're effectively pulling it out of the well and getting it into our tanks and then distributing it to our homes and businesses. But over the course of the last several years, I think 12 to 15 years, the city's been served well by what's called our rainy well, and that is a large vertical well site that's over at the London Bridge Beach Park. It's a real small structure, but and you look at it and you wouldn't think twice. Maybe you look at like a restroom facility or something along those lines. Well, that building is the tip of the well, and it goes about 200 feet, 180 to 200 feet down, and then goes in all different directions at different fingers, and is able to pull water from the aquifer, and then we distribute that water over to our water treatment plant, where it is cleaned and then distributed to the homes and businesses. That is our one water source for the city, one major water source for the city. And it's at a point where we need to service and maintain that infrastructure so that we can keep it going strong for Lake Havasu City. And we also need to identify a secondary or backup water supply that's going to serve the community in case of major malfunction or in times of need. So up until this point, we've done a few actions and we've brought in some exploratory drilling, and we looked at 4 different areas of where we could we put drills in the ground and looked at soil content, water quality, and those types of things to identify where exactly do we start drilling additional wells. One of the things that you have to look at is not just the location will provide good quality water, but what's the cost to bring the water from that well location to the water treatment plant, because you got to put lines in the ground and there's obviously a large cost with that. So in the past, we've done the exploratory drilling that's been completed, and now next steps as a council this week at the council meeting is to start the engineering design to drill 2 wells, one at the water treatment plant and at another location over by the off of London Bridge Road. And so those are it's a huge step forward in terms of our ability to get to where we need to get to. It'll take us about from this time frame forward about 18 months to get the design completed, the drilling completed, and then the ability to actually pull water from these wells to get it to the treatment plant, and then bring our rainy well offline so that we can do the proper maintenance. But staff has been working tirelessly on this effort for many, many years, and they're very excited that they've brought it to this point.
Yeah, excellent, thank you, and thank you to all the hard work of the staff. I know that they've toured myself and many of my colleagues on the council through that process and what the need is, and I'm glad that we're able to get it to where it's at. So thank you to all of the staff members that have been instrumental in bringing this project forward. All right, there's been some conversation in the news about the structural budget deficit. and so some big words, and I'm going to turn it to Jess to kind of give us the overview in a real simple fashion of what that means and what that looks like, and just so that you can understand, have some framework behind some conversations that might be happening in the news or otherwise. So Jess, if you want to talk a little bit about the budget process.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, there's been some conversations. We've been did our best. We just passed the city and the council just passed the budget, which went into effect earlier this month on July 1st, and a part of that we're doing our best to educate the public and all those that are interested in that budget process. And one of the things that we've been talking about is the city's structural deficit, and this is something that's not new. It's not because of Prop 409, nothing tied there. But this is something that's been going on for about 5-6 years prior to the expenditure limitation that was occurring at that time. So what we have is a situation where now let me preface this by saying that the city is not spending more money than it has in terms of resources. But what that structural deficit means on an ongoing basis that the city has been for many years now, spending more money than it is taking on an annual basis. So, and it's something that we got to take a real close look at. So, in terms of putting it down, trying to explain it in terms that as individuals and employees in the workforce might understand is hopefully we have a savings account and hopefully we have a checking account, and we use that checking account to pay for the mortgage and the utility bills and the water bills and groceries and things like that too. The more you start dipping into the savings account to pay those bills, you can't do that for too long. Otherwise, you won't have a savings account, and then you're left with bills that are left that need to be paid. Now, the city's in a good position for the next several years. We could utilize our savings account to continue to pay for those ongoing expenses that we have. And what do I mean by ongoing expenses? I'm talking about public safety. I'm talking about police services and fire services, the ability to maintain roads, provide parks, and all the good things we do in terms of streamlining and assisting the construction activity that happens within Lake Havasu City. Many more services that are out there. And so what we're trying to do now is to identify a means for us to be able to live within our means and identify a way for us to get those annual revenues and those annual expenditures to match up. And at that point, then all that goes away. So, I mean, what caused it? I think is probably some of the questions that are out there. And, if you look at where we're at just 10 years ago, 2008, we had well over 100 police officers that were on the force. And we had, in terms of employee staffing and staffing levels, were higher than they are today. And over the course of time, well, we've property tax rates were decreased over the course of time, and as other revenues that were coming to the city were decreased over the course of time. But the city grew, and so now we're in a need to readdress all those. So 12 years ago, about 100 police officers on the force. Now we're down to it's in the 70s. So it's just one of those things that we need to identify where we're at and what we want to be as a community. Now, if we have feedback from the community that says, you know what, we don't want those staffing levels, or we don't want those services to be at a certain level, then significant cuts will need to be made. But we're at that point right now to make those large decisions. Do we reduce the costs, or do we look at other options that are out there? When I'm out there in the community, and I think that Mayor Sheehy and Vice Mayor Lane could also would agree with me that we don't hear. What we do hear is we need more officers, we need more firefighters, we need more protective services, we need cleaner parks, we need better roads, we need quality water, and all those types of things that are out there. And then a message here too is that we're trying to do this from a break-even perspective. We look at what the community wants, we try to identify the services that the community wants, but in order to provide those services, we need to have the funding to do that, to essentially break even and provide those services. So I think you asked for a simple explanation, and I blew it. But
I think that, I think it was good. I mean, it's basically starting the conversation so that we all are at the same starting spot. So we understand when these conversations are happening, where it's at, and what it looks like. Now that Jess talked about some of the downsides of the budget, I'll talk about a couple of the good sides of the budget. So we have been able to fully fund a budget stabilization reserve in this year's budget. We did it in last year's budget as well, which some folks refer to as like the rainy day fund. Really what it is in times, uncertain times like these during a pandemic or otherwise, that we have enough reserves to be able to continue the operations for several months while City Council can make decisions recommended by staff on changes or cuts should that happen. So very proud of the budget stabilization reserve that's fully funded. And then also identifying for our CIP budget, or our capital improvement plan that Jess alluded to, we have a dedicated funding source of construction sales tax. So basically growth pays for growth, and that identifies a funding source that allows city staff to, one, have some consistency in their planning process and in their budgeting process that goes several years out. So that way we're working well into the future and not trying to be reactive, but we're being proactive. So, less water main breaks, less pump issues, less things of those nature, because we're taking care of it on a preventative cycle, which the city has been doing over the last several years, but with an enhanced focus now. So a couple of other good things on that budget, but that's basically, now we're all at the same starting spot, and we'll continue to have these conversations as we move forward. So thank you for that. Next, we have just a couple more items, and then it's onto your section of the program where we answer your questions. But we'll have Jess give us a year-end update on permits and the such. Lake Havasu City has a fiscal year that ends on June 30th. So we're just 31 days into the new fiscal year here. So Jess will give us an update on the fiscal year, basically building permits, those types of things. And we can talk a little bit about Riviera, which is the housing development that's lakeside of the highway between Mulberry and Acoma as you're heading up the hill if you're heading south. There's currently a stoplight that you'll see that has bags over it, but we do have electricity to the stoplight now, and it can turn on when the time is right. Right now, there's a lot of heavy equipment moving out there, so it's not safe to go out there, but the development is moving forward. The state park partnership is making progress, and they are hopeful that we'll be able to have users starting to use that state park next summer, next season. And then also real estate is selling out there at a pretty rapid pace. So that plan is coming together, and we should start seeing buildings soon. And that is all good things, certainly since we've been talking about it for so many years. The state park we've been talking about for decades. So it's good to be able to bring another mainland boat launch facility and park amenities over to this area. And then the development as well. So with that, Jess, I'll turn it over to you to go over some stats and add your thoughts on Riviera.
Yeah, certainly. I think that the message that we're trying to kind of convey here is that construction activity, and I don't think this is news to those that are observing what's happening, is very, very strong. So we're a fiscal year here as a city, and we just closed our fiscal year that goes from July 1st to June 30th. And so we look at numbers in comparison to the previous year at the end of that period to rate and compare where we're at, in comparison to previous years. Construction activity is very, very strong. We're seeing the number of permits, the number for renovations, for additions, for pool construction, and then what we call certificates of occupancy, which is the number of single-family housing that is constructed on these the vacant lots throughout the community. I think it's hard to drive down A Street in Havasu and not see some type of level of construction taking place. And we're seeing that. We've seen an increase from this last fiscal year, or the 12 months, the 12 months prior. These categories, the only category that is down is in terms of commercial construction. We've gone from 29 down to 14, but for those areas, but in all other areas, we're seeing an increase over the course of the last 12 months, but also an increase over the course of the last 4 months, or since 4 or 5 months when the pandemic first started. So we've seen about 35 more homes were built in the last 12 months than they were built in the year prior, and pool additions, renovations, even demolitions. All of these permits are higher than they were prior. So as far as construction activity, it is very, very strong in Lake Havasu City. And as a city, we're prepared, and we have been and doing a really good job and assisting the construction community with permits and zoning and all of the stuff that needs to take place so that homes and businesses are constructed safely and with the least amount of impact to neighbors.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Right. Two more items, and then we'll get on to the questions. But first, it is an election year. If you haven't seen it on the news, but Lake Havasu City is holding an election for primary. We have 3 council seats that are up, and generally over the last few cycles, many of those seats have been determined in the primary. So the primary is going on right now. Today is actually the last day for early voting. If you want to early vote, you can go to the Mojave County Library on McCulloch and do your early voting if you wanted to do that today. And if not, then the polls open on Tuesday, August 4th. I believe it's August 4th. Yes, Tuesday, August 4th. And you will be able to vote in that election. So we, like I said, many of those city offices have been determined in the primaries in years past. So please know that if you want to early vote, today's your last day, again, at the library or on Tuesday at the polls. And then we wouldn't, we'd be remiss if we didn't finish with the U.S. Census. Please, if you have not filled out the U.S. Census, now is the time to do that. You can do it very, very easily online. There's also a phone number that you can call to do it. You can look at the city's website or Facebook page and get the resources for that. But the U.S. Census determines a lot of different things. It determines based on site selectors who's going to relocate their business to Lake Havasu. It is state shared revenues. So income taxes that our residents are already paying get redistributed back to the places where we live based on U.S. Census data. Representation at the federal level and when it comes to Congress is determined by U.S. Census. Arizona is slated based on some estimates to get an additional Congress seat. So it's very important that you stand up, be counted. You can go to the U.S. Census website and do that. It literally takes like 5 minutes. It's such a simple thing. And if you don't do it online, they still do have door knockers coming your way. So try to prevent that and go ahead and go online and make that happen. So before we go on to the questions, I just want to say good morning to a few of my colleagues on the council that have joined us this morning. So first, we have Councilmember Donna McCoy. Generally is always in the audience when we're in public and is also always watching live when we're doing this. So good morning, Councilmember McCoy, and thank you for your leadership and all of your stewardship of Lake Havasu City. It is invaluable, and we welcome you here this morning. And then also we have Councilmember Jenny Koch. Welcome, Councilmember Koch. Thank you for being here. Also a staple at Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager, usually in the audience. And we also thank you for your leadership and all that you're doing during these difficult times for Lake Havasu City. Now we will go into the questions section, and we'll just kind of start in kind of an order in which they were received. So the question is, will Relics and Rods and Desert Storm take place? I'll make that into a bigger question. What is the forecast look like for events? And I will say it's unknown when it comes to events. The state is guiding some of that when it comes from a public health perspective through the Arizona Department of Health Services, what that looks like, can it be done safely, and those types of measures. So more to follow on that. That was actually a specific question of the governor this week in a call that I attended, and they are working on what guidance might look like for that and how that can be safely done or not. And so I think it's too early to determine. But there is another question here as well about some of the cancellations that have already occurred here in Lake Havasu City. First, I'd like to say that the city has not canceled any of those events. These events in Lake Havasu City are put on by nonprofit boards and organizations and interested community-minded members that are making these decisions. So the decision was made to cancel the London Bridge Days Parade, the Balloon Festival in January, and some of our iconic events. And the groups that are organizing these are different groups and different organizations, but they're making the call in the best interest of what makes sense for them. And I know it can be difficult for us not to try and draw conclusions from one area to another. So, why is it okay that the channel can have people in it, but we can't have a parade? Or why is it okay for this to happen, but we can't do that? And just know that all of the decisions that are made in the best interest of the public by these organizations that may be hosting them or putting those on. So I hope that answers that question. I don't know if Jess or Vice Mayor Lane, if you have any thoughts on events or the like.
Mr. Mayor, part of the thing and the part of the conversation that you don't hear about when it comes to these events is they all cost money to put on. And none of that money is taxpayer dollars. That money is coming from different organizations here in town that donate those funds, and they sponsor these events. Well, with the COVID, a lot of the money generated by these companies is low, and they don't have the sponsorship dollars that they normally would have. So it's also a monetary thing that, yes, some money would be coming in, but it costs money up front. And a lot of these businesses just don't have the dollars to sponsor right now. And rather than embarrass a company that has to just say no this year, I think they took that into consideration when they were making those decisions.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next question.
Now, Keller's, I guess,
yes.
There was a related question there too about, it was a permit issued for a county music festival in September at LBB Park. I'm not sure what the county music festival is, but the short answer there in terms of all these, we have not received an application for a special event for September for an event of this sort. So to your point, Mayor, to your point, Vice Mayor, the applications aren't coming in. These are difficult times to host an event for many reasons, and from the business financial side of things, as well as the pandemic side of things. But we have not received any permits.
Yeah, thank you. And when it comes to the events and organizing, they take many months and sometimes years to plan and put into place. And so it's just really difficult. If you would have asked anyone on June 1st, for example, if businesses were going to be closed again, I don't think people would have thought that was the case. And just 30 days later, bars and fitness centers and gyms were closed again. And so it's just really difficult in these uncertain times to plan. But we stand ready at the city to assist in answering questions and giving guidance that we receive, all in the interest of public health and also balancing the piece of heritage, I guess you could say, for Lake Havasu of things that are important to our citizens. So next question has to do with the police departments and that some mayors are telling their police to stand down and to explain our position. First, I would like to say that I am very proud of the men and women that serve Lake Havasu City and the Lake Havasu City Police Department. They are some of the finest people in our community. And the next thing I'd like to say is what you're seeing on TV is not what you're seeing in Lake Havasu City. And so it's just a completely different situation here. Our police department is the utmost professionals. They were a leader in the state when it comes to body cameras. Our officers have been equipped with body cameras for nearly a decade or more. So it's just not anything that you're hearing in the national news. It's just not us. We're also one of only, I believe, 3 agencies that are even accredited in the state of Arizona. It shows the leadership of Chief Doyle and his team and the great work that they're doing. So I support our Lake Havasu City Police Department and trust them with the job that they're doing. And Jess or Vice Mayor Lane, if you have any thoughts or comments on that.
No, I guess I would just echo all those sentiments. I think that what you're seeing on national TV and cable news networks and things like that too, those situations are not occurring in Lake Havasu City. And those other maybe national conversations that are occurring about defund the police or those types of things, those conversations are not happening in Lake Havasu City. We fully support our efforts, and as a city manager and as members on council, we don't interfere with the ability for our chief and his leadership team and the officers in the streets to do their job and they've done a fantastic job protecting us and serving us.
Absolutely. If I can and weigh in, for those that may not know my background, I was a police officer. I spent between my 4.5 years of a military police and my 30 years with the California Highway Patrol. I've worked all over this country with different law enforcement agencies. We have one of the best law enforcement agencies you could ever ask for. And as far as defunding the police or telling the police they can't do their job in Lake Havasu, I don't see that happening. So, of course, it's always important to make sure that you vet the people that you vote for. It's always important because we're only one election away from things changing. But the good part is, if you look at the election that's coming up, talking with all the candidates, they all feel the same way. So I don't foresee anything in the near future of the city trying to handcuff the police department, as you might say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it's. I'm sorry. Yes, Jess.
If I can, some other comments that have come in terms of that, like our officers are stretched thin in terms of resources and manpower. Other comments coming in about pair officers. Harken back to the previous conversations. All these things are tied together. That's what we want to do, and that's what we are doing. So we do go through the positional analysis to look at market wages, so that we can pay our officers and our city employees across the board a market wage, and a wage that they deserve, but more so a wage that we can attract and retain the best officers and the best city employees. And it also harkens back to that conversation that we had earlier about the structural deficit and the city's financial situation, that we have to look at resources to make sure that we have those things coming in, so we can do just that. So we can support not just PD, but fire and parks and building services and all the great people that it takes to support those folks and those services. One officer on the street is supported by so many people in the background. We talked about body cameras. Well, what does that mean? That means servers and IT folks and individuals. As far as the ability to equip that officer, it's going to take our admin services professionals to make sure that they have the proper equipment, and those within the civilians within the police department to make sure that they're put in a position to succeed. So. And not to mention they need a road to drive on, and water, and for the firefighters, those types of things too. So just want to maybe tie that conversation a little bit too. 100%, we need to support them. We need to pay them a market wage. But I want to tie all those conversations together. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And one last thing on the police department, what makes our organization so great is that they're all residents of Lake Havasu City. So we have long tenure within our police and fire and public safety. And many of the folks that are joining the ranks now graduated high school here, and this is their home. And so what you're seeing nationally is not what you're seeing here. And again, to the fine men and women of our law enforcement, good job, and keep up the good work, and we'll keep moving forward. So our next question is, why is the North Beach on the channel closed to side-by-sides for family use? So this would be the west bank of the North Channel across from the state park, which has the white sand beach. The state park area is a fee for service. It's a state park, and so you'd have to pay a fee to use that beach area. On the west bank, that's actually state lands, and so the side-by-sides that were going into that area were driving over a fence that was cut down by not state lands. And so I'm just actually learning it. There's 2 or 3 questions on this feed this morning, and I'm just now learning that it must be closed down for side-by-side. So again, that's a state lands parcel. I was in that area earlier this week, but not not on the west bank, from where the land side is. So that's where the fence is that would obviously is preventing folks from getting in, was further from where I was at. But we can look into that and see if there's been a change at state lands for some reason. But again, that's state lands property. Just, do you have any additional information on that?
Well, no, I think you kind of summed it up, but I think that is state land property. They put up a fence. The fence was cut down and driven over. So now their response to that is to put up more of a permanent barrier for that location. So that's state land property, and again, they are trying to limit access to their property, and have in the past. And this is the response to their fence getting cut down.
All right, moving on to the next question is about indoor transmission. If that's really where the area of concern is right now for COVID-19, why are businesses not being held responsible to enforce a face mask requirement? we've asked our business community to help slow the spread of the virus, and that's what the face mask or face covering is aimed to doing. And we've seen some really good compliance with that, and city staff has done a fantastic job. Again, we mentioned it earlier, but if you go to our website at lhcaz.gov, go to the COVID tab, and you'll see some business resources that we provided as far as decals and things that businesses can print off on their own printer and hang in that area. But I appreciate all of the good actors in this process that have been helping us slow the spread of the virus, and we'll continue working in that direction. Next, somebody made a comment about we have all this money in the bank and we're talking about donations to the Alliance. I appreciate your point of view, but the great point that I would make one more time is that the money that we're talking about, that the Alliance is all donated money from citizens of our community wanting to help each other, and not taxpayer money. Mr. Vice Mayor, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that comment or not, since you're so active and involved.
I didn't see the question, but the fact is, no taxpayer dollars have been spent. Every penny that we are using to give people a helping hand has all come from other members of this community, and they're earmarking those dollars to help each other. So it's our community helping our community, and I think it's a wonderful thing. So I hope there was no confusion. Yes, the city is spearheading this, but only as an organizational type of an issue. We're there just to make sure that people know where to go. It's a trusted, as I said, trusted, reliable source, not just somebody heard from somebody else that heard from somebody else. If you're going through us, it's legitimate, and we're there. As I said, people helping people. No dollars have been spent. Just some time expended by myself and a couple other city employees, but no actual tax dollars are being spent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next question is, let's open up all the businesses that are closed. Again, under Governor's executive order, bars with a Series 6 or Series 7 license are currently closed under executive order. Gyms and fitness centers and water parks are currently closed under the Governor's executive order. Early on, this is where we move so quick, sometimes we forget to give some background for folks that are just joining us. But early on, because we don't employ public health professionals at the city, because that's not the purview of what city government does. I mean, there are delineations of what different branches of government do. Health is not one that is under the city's purview, but obviously in a pandemic situation, we need to react, and we need to protect the health and safety of our citizens. And that's what we're doing at every stage of this. But we had to have a barometer early on of how citizens were going to judge the city's response to the pandemic and how we could be checked and held accountable. So obviously, as an elected mayor, I'm accountable to you, the taxpayers and voting citizens of Lake Havasu City. And I wanted to be able to give you guys that barometer to be able to hold me accountable to that. So we said early on we would follow the governor's executive orders to the word, and also the CDC recommendations. And that's what we've been doing. So we have not closed down businesses. We have educated the businesses based on executive orders, but at the state level, they have been closed, all to mitigate the spread of this virus. And so we're following the governor's executive orders to do that. Early on, he had an executive order that identified essential businesses. So when it comes to closing down vacation rentals or hotels or motels or the like, those were protected in that executive order, and we don't have that ability to do that. You might say just do it anyhow, but the executive order had another line in it that specifically exempted cities, towns, and counties from taking any measures other than what was identified in those executive orders. The penalty would be the risk of loss of state shared revenues. Those are the revenues that are sent to the state first before they come to Lake Havasu City, which is all the revenues, and they would take money on the and withhold that, and that money that's due back to Lake Havasu City. So we're continuing to do that. I know sometimes it's hard, and like I said earlier, it's easy to try to draw comparisons that might make common sense, but not in this environment. So if this, then why that? Or if that, then why not this? I know it's hard not to have those answers, but just know that we're working on the health and safety of our citizens under the purviews of the United States Constitution, Arizona state law, the executive orders, and city code, which is a lot of things to have to pay attention to. So it does make some things that might make common sense not so easy or not so common to do. But again, it's to protect the rights of citizens of the United States and the state of Arizona, and of course, our citizens here in Lake Havasu City. I don't know if Mr. Vice Mayor or Mr. Knudson, you have any thoughts on that comment, or?
I think you covered it fairly well. Thank you.
All right, let's
state's providing those directives. So that's the end of the story there too. Is that it's the state in terms of the closures that have happened so far, and it's the cities and the citizens and all of us together that are reacting to those directives. So, but we get that question quite a lot. We explain it over and over again, and I think that depending on kind of the audience and so forth, and then we get that question. So why is the city closing down the bars? Again, the city's not closing down the bars. It's a directive that comes from the governor of Arizona.
You know, Mr. Mayor, one other thing I'll bring up on that, because I do hear comments about why is the mayor doing this and why is the mayor doing that. You've actually only done two things. You closed down the channel. We all saw how that worked. And then you asked people through a proclamation to please wear a mask in public. That's all that's been done at the city level. Everything else has come from the state. So I thank you for using discretion when needed.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. There's lots of things that we do on a daily basis to get through the mitigation, but when it comes to the big things, that's you are correct. All right, we'll shift the conversation a little bit to the rental housing market and workforce housing. There's been lots of discussions about workforce housing, a lot pre-pandemic, and we've had conversations during the pandemic about what that looks like. The city's not a builder, so we don't build housing, but we do work on zoning, and we have all proper zoning that encourages development of high density rental market type housing. But we also are relationship builders and facilitate the relationships. And so we've been working with a variety of folks, literally anybody that talks about workforce housing or an idea, meeting with me and generally with Jess as well, so that we can help facilitate those relationships. So we have some really unique opportunities in Lake Havasu City with an opportunity zone down at the north end of town heading into the county area. We also have other people that are just interested in building different types of things that would come with it, affordable rents. And so we are working on those types of things and building those relationships. Representative Biasucci has facilitated some relationships with the USDA on some of the programs that they offer as far as financing for folks that would be building these types of developments. And so we're continuing to have those conversations on an ongoing basis, and we hope to be able to have some action in this area relatively soon. Obviously, the pandemic and the uncertainty of the economy is going to play some sort of a role in there, but we will continue to have those conversations.
Mayor, if I can, I was Jason West, a great partner over at Bureau of Land Management, pointed out that I didn't make a mistake earlier, at least I misspoke at the end of the conversation about the update with the state land on the island and the close of the side-by-sides. I talked about that being state land. And I think I misspoke and maybe included the BLM in that conversation. It's not. It's that property on the island. And actually, for those that don't know, about 80% of the land on the island is all state land. So, sorry, Jason.
All right, we'll talk. One of the questions during the discussion about the second well came up was the groundwater contamination issue around that old McCulloch factory. I know some progress has been made on that, Jess, if you want to take that question.
Yeah, so this is the old McCulloch plant, and a lot of the chrome and so forth, and how that was disposed at that time, and the contaminations of the ground in that area. So that Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, or ADEQ, is the lead agency to make sure that our lands here in Havasu and across the state are safe and so forth. And right now, the latest on that is they've reached out to us, and we've been a full partner and encouraging all of their efforts to make sure that we're doing the right things in that area. But right now, it's a lot of different test well sites for us to identify where that plume's at and so forth. So right now, we're drilling testing sites and core drillings and taking samples and monitoring that situation over the course of time. So the good news is that we're monitoring and looking at making sure that we're doing the right thing and understand what it is. And the other piece of good news there too is it doesn't provide any type of a danger or to our water supply or to residents in that area at all. But we'll keep supporting the efforts of ADEQ and making sure that area is safe for everybody.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to grab something with far on the desk. All right, so talked about housing, water, building. What's the build out? That was a follow-up question to when we talked about kind of the land that we have around us and the water resources. It's approximately 96,000 full-time residents is what build out is for Lake Havasu City. And then another question came in about does firefighters of Havasu service the Horizon 6 citizens? Horizon 6 is on the south end of Lake Havasu City, kind of tucked in behind some of our neighborhoods, but it's in the county. And we will go out there and assist, but we do not provide fire service services to the Horizon 6 customers. So just I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit on that, but.
Sure. So Horizon 6 is we love our neighbors in Horizon 6, and again that's an unincorporated part of Mojave County. But we have to be cognizant of the services that we provide as a city because it's our city residents that pay property tax and are the residents of Lake Havasu City. We do our best to make sure that we're good partners, and if something comes up, including I think there was a shed fire maybe about 2 weeks ago or so, 2-3 weeks ago, and we responded to it to assist there, but we're not the primary in terms of fire response, and we're not the primary in terms of EMS response. So that area is the county, just like it would be in northern parts or southern parts outside of the Lake Havasu City area. We've had conversations with the residents out there, great people. We've had conversations with the county and what it might take for us to be partners and provide something out there. But the end result is that we can't put an undue burden on our existing residents to provide services outside of our boundary. So that's the trick and the need to overcome that.
Thank you. Next question is we have a resident that moved here in 2012 and they kept noticing these pillars at the corner of Smoke Tree and McCulloch. Someone told them they were for a sign like the Kingman has in their downtown that says the Route 66. Is that true? And why, if so, why hasn't it been completed? So yes, it is true. It was going to be an archway into McCulloch Boulevard or the Main Street area or the Uptown area, downtown area. It's been named several different things, but there was an association of the merchants in the downtown region on McCulloch, and that was one of their missions as an organization to have some sort of an entrance sign that when you enter into the area, you know you've arrived to a place. And so they got the pillars put together, and then some cost restraints as far as the cost to put the rest of it together then became burdensome. The organization had a little bit of turnover, and it's been tried to be resurrected a few times, but the intent is that all of it's been done with or donated monies and grants and the like. None of it has been taxpayer money. And they continue to have discussions and renew discussions about that. Most recently, the end of last year, they started to have some discussions about what could be done and what steps could be taken. And then quickly, as we got into 2020, the pandemic came on board, and I've heard no additional updates on that. I don't know if Vice Mayor Lane or Jess, if you have any thoughts or additional comments on that.
I had muted myself there. I get this question quite often from people, and the bottom line is it's not a taxpayer city issue. If the citizens of Lake Havasu want us to spend tax dollars to complete a project that was not started by the city, we can have that discussion with our city manager and see if that can be put into the budget. But everything we do has a dollar tied to it, and we try to keep those dollars down. So right now, I can't see spending city dollars for a non-city issue.
All right, the next question is there anything the city can do about the poor service from Suddenlink? And we get this question a lot too, and it's very, very frustrating for you and for me and for businesses and for all of us. And we have been really working hard with senior leadership at Suddenlink to ensure that we have infrastructure and capital investment of their equipment into our communities to serve our citizens. And we are making some progress. We invited Suddenlink to the Tri-City Council meeting, which I was the chair of last year, to have the discussion from a regional perspective. So if we can get the all of the technology pieces together across the entire region, hopefully higher speed and more reliable infrastructure would then be available here in Lake Havasu City. We continue to stay focused on this. We have regular communication with senior leadership and investment. This year, I had to think on when I say this year, we think of a calendar year as citizens, and then other groups think of it through fiscal year. But this year, Suddenlink has over $500,000 in investment in infrastructure slated for our area and our community to increase that. Certainly, it's not enough, and I know that, and they know that. And I'm sure to tell them that every time they see me. And so we'll continue to fight that fight for our citizens and increase the reliability and access and availability of connectivity across our entire city. So, maybe some of the answer is that it's just not one provider. And so we're open to all of those discussions to ensure that our citizens have choice and reliability and consistency. So I know we're kind of getting to the wire, so I'll just move on to the next, unless you guys have something to say on that. We have a related question. Why do we only close the channel? Only closing one location, asking them to go all elsewhere. Why don't we do what California did and restrict everything to locals only? The actions of California, so each state is a sovereign state, have their own state laws that they're allowed to work within. We're in Arizona, of course, so we have to work under Arizona revised statutes. California's actions are different because California law is different. And the governor took those actions. Those were not actions that were taken by cities or municipalities. And with all due respect, I would not want to look at anything that California is doing as a model for what we should be doing, because when they were closing their beaches and the like, it just filled up beaches in other cities. So not a model I'm after. And then we have one about winter visitors. Any thought about lobbying senior levels of government to allow winter visitors to return? Open, closed borders under safe conditions such as quarantines. No winter visitors could be a significant financial loss for our city. Certainly, there are no travel restrictions at this time in Arizona, but that could change. I mean, this is an ever-moving and evolving situation as they deal with the pandemic. But we look forward to welcoming the winter visitors that rely on Lake Havasu City as their home each winter to return, of course, if it's safe, and we will do what we can, whether that's with senior officials or elected leaders or the like, to ensure that they can safely return if that's in the right direction. So we'll end on the Kmart building question, and the question is, what about the old Kmart building? Will zoning be changed for that? We did have a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last week. There is a recommendation from the Planning Commission, 6-1 or 5-1, one of the two, but 5-1. Okay, 5-1 coming to the council for approval. But this is a process, so it's a public process, and I was sorry that the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting could not be open to the public actually being in the same space. At that time, the increased numbers of COVID prevented that from happening. but we've since been able to find a solution to having the council chambers open to the public. So the council meeting will be open to have people in the room at the same time. What's so important about that is even though we were accepting public comment and we anticipate and would like everybody to comment and give their opinions on all matters in front of the city, it sometimes when someone goes up to a public hearing and speaks during the call to the public, their comments may spark an interest in comments that you may have. And so it fuels and creates this conversation, and that can't happen when you have to email in your comments. With all that being said, we're going to meet our citizens, our council, and members of our community where they're at. So all of our public meetings will still be available through electronic means. Council members can attend through electronic means if that's what they feel most comfortable with. We have installed barriers on the dais so council members are safe and can remove our face coverings so that we can have a discussion and you can see our mouth move, read our lips if you need to, those types of things, see our expressions on our face. If we so feel comfortable, we've moved the podium so it's physically distanced. And then we just ask everyone that attends those public hearings to wear face covering in the audience. That way we can have these conversations about that. So with that being said, the Planning and Zoning Commission happened. There was 18 to 20 comments that were read into the record from citizens of the community. We then will have our hearing on August 28th. I believe that's the council meeting. It's the last council meeting in August, which is going to
25th, I believe, right?
25th. Yeah, so 25th. So please join us either on television or in person and give us your feedback on that. But I think it'd be too premature to answer what that's going to be without having the public discussion and hearing my colleagues on council's viewpoints on that. So Vice Mayor Lane, or if you have any thoughts on it before we go into some fun facts as we close out this coffee with the mayor and city manager and vice mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mentioned earlier, and most people already know this, I was a police officer. I was a detective. You don't make a decision on anything until you have all the facts. And as of right now, nothing has actually been given to the council. I did watch the planning and zoning meeting, so I do have that information. I did have a talk with Mr. Gray over at the Partnership for Economic Development, but we can't make a decision until all the facts are known. And so that'll happen over the course of the next month. And I expect to hear from many, many citizens, both for and against this process.
All right. Well, we'll go into some fast facts. This is when we end the coffee with the mayor and city manager and talk about some of the interesting things that are happening in Lake Havasu City. So let's see. We'll go through and so this is interesting from our engineering team. Did you know that your line does not go all the way to the street? Your property typically stops right behind your water meter, on the outside of your water meter, and the water meter is located in the public right of way. The space between your water meter and the pavement is the right of way, which could be as little as 5 feet or as much as 20 feet, depending on the width of the right of way and the pavement in your particular neighborhood. So, very interesting fact there from the city. From our IT professionals in Lake Havasu City, IT supports our information technology, supports over 15.5 miles of fiber optics used to connect the city's primary locations. There are over 140 servers in our data center to host our city software, websites, and various file systems. Let's see, and then from fire this year, or excuse me, in the month of June, our fire department was called on 511 EMS incidences. So that was just June of this last year. They also responded to 20 fires for the month of June. And then they also did about 106 service calls in the month of June as well, averaging about 25 calls per day in the month of June for our fire. So thank you for all that they're doing. As always, it's an honor and a pleasure to serve you as your mayor. If you have any questions, comments, otherwise, feel free to reach out to me. We look forward to seeing you again next month, either through these means or in person. And stay tuned to all that Lake Havasu City is doing, one, to serve you and also protect the health and safety of our citizens. I would like to remind everyone, please be kind. Let's get through this. It's tough times for everybody. Everyone's doing their best, and the only people that are going to be able to fix what's happening to us is us. So like Havasu City residents, let's take care of each other. Let's turn off the news and see what's happening on the national side and give no worry to it. Let's give worry to what we can do and each one of us can do to make like Havasu City the special place that it is. I thank you for all that you're doing, and until next time. Thank you for joining us, Vice Mayor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. Enjoyed being here. Red Shirt Friday.
Thank you. And thank you, Jess, for joining me as always.
Thank you, Mayor. It's make it a great day.
Yes. And again, Councilmember McCoy and Councilmember Koch, thank you for joining us today. And one last thank you to Jerry, who is making all of this technology happen so you can see us here on Facebook Live. Thank you for all that you're doing. And then Steve Blake, who is also supporting us to connect with our citizens and serve the great citizens of Lake Havasu City. Happy Friday, all. We'll talk to you soon.